If you want to be powerful, if you want to be rich, then you need to know business, because at the end of the day, every rich and powerful person is a business person.
The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Hey guys, welcome to the Brendan Ecker Influence, where I teach you how to succeed, accomplish your dreams, and develop multiple income streams. On today's episode, I talk about the 7 areas of study you need to know if you want to rule the world. Number 1 is psychology. You need to understand human nature. You need to understand your fellow man. Many people are more interested in learning about animals than they are about their fellow man. Psychology is the most important skill you're ever going to need to know in your entire life. At the end of the day, if you want to have money, if you want to have wealth, you need to know psychology. If you want to be able to ask a girl out and that girl say yes, you need to know some psychology. If you want to understand yourself, if you want to be self-aware, then you need to know some psychology. If you want to understand other people, if you want to know what inspires other people and what motivates them, what drives them, then you need to understand psychology. If you want to understand why there is good and evil in the world, then you need to know psychology. If you want to understand how to negotiate...
We're not negotiating.
Yes, we are.
And how to actually talk to somebody and how to communicate with other people and to know what they want, then psychology is an important thing. If you want to de-escalate a situation, for example, like me, being a police officer. If I want to de-escalate a situation, I need to understand psychology, not just to deceive, but to actually connect with another human being, to be able to understand what they're thinking, to know what they want, to be able to read a room clearly, and that takes understanding psychology. Again, it doesn't mean knowing the clinical parts of psychology. You don't need to get all psychoanalytical theory and Sigmund Freud. It's not so much that. Most of the psychology you're going to need to know in this world is the basic levels of psychology, basic communication styles, basic social cues, simply understanding what people want, understanding why they want it, why they need it, why they can't go without it, why they have to have it, and why they will keep coming back for more. That's psychology. And at the end of the day, that brings us to number 2. Business. Business is a broad term, but at the end of the day, business means money. Business means wealth. Business means income. Business means life. Business is good. Business means deals. If you want to see yourself meeting important VIP people, if you want to see yourself at the White House presidential dinners, for example, if you want to see yourself in New York City at Broadway with Steven Spielberg, if you want to be powerful, if you want to be rich, then you need to know business, because at the end of the day, every rich and powerful person is a business person.
The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Business is the way the world goes around. At the end of the day, independence comes from business. America was founded upon a country of small business owners. We are a business owner society. We are a business owner country. America was designed for the businessman. America was designed to inspire. America was designed to innovate. At the end of the day, we are not meant to be worker bees. We're meant to be thinkers. We're meant to be movers. We're meant to be drivers. We are meant to transcend. We are meant to go to the next level, to create, reproduce, and innovate. That is what we do as human beings. That's why we're here. That's your purpose. Everything is business. At the end of the day, everything is a negotiation. Everything is a deal. You're always selling yourself, no matter what. Even if you're not a salesperson, and if you believe you're not one, you are. Every single time you're trying to get what you want in the world, you're selling. You didn't learn much about taking financial risks in high school, did you? For the most part, your teachers were teaching you about life skills, right? And what did they say life skills was? Finding a job, figuring out what you were meant to be good at as an employee. Business. School never teaches you about it. You never learn about business in school. You never learned about real estate. You never learned about a 1031 tax exchange. You never learned about an S Corp, a C Corp, an LLC. You never learned about any of that. You never learned about all the benefits of having real estate. You never learned about bonus depreciation. You never learned about tax write-offs or deductions. You didn't learn about credit cards and why you need to have an 800 credit score if you want to get good terms on a home loan. Never learned anything about that, did you, in high school? Probably not. There's a good chance that when you were in high school, you were taking career aptitude tests. You were taking litmus tests that would decide where you would be fit for employment, but not starting companies. You never learned about business. You never learned about psychology. Those are things you just don't learn in high school. You're not learning about the really important stuff. And if you do learn about psychology in high school, then all you're really learning about is all the gushy science stuff that makes no sense to anybody. You're not learning about the important steps. You're not learning about people. You're not learning about the psychological connections between human beings and how we interact with one another. That is how you create wealth and power for yourself and others, by the way. If you want to be rich and powerful, and if you want to be networking with VIP individuals, then in order for you to do that, one, you need to know business, you need to know psychology. You need to know those two things if you ever want to get close to anybody important who does understand those things. If you want to soar with eagles and if you want to dine with kings, then you have to think like a king and you have to be willing to fly. Knowledge never stops. Knowledge continues forever. At the end of the day, you can continue learning and you can never stop learning. You can never learn too much. Number 3 on the list is semantics, something you probably wouldn't have expected me to say. Semantics is the study of the meaning of language. It is the study of the relationship between different languages. Semantics is the art of communication. It is the root of all communication because it is the root of language and the meaning of language, the study of the meaning of language. You need to know what people are saying. You need to know how to say things to people. You need to know how to communicate a point to people. You need to know how to interact. As a police officer, I had to understand semantics. Semantics is a very important skill that you need to know. As a police officer, you need to be able to articulate everything. You need to be able to articulate what you're saying. You need to be able to articulate where you want people to go, and you need to be able to articulate what you want people to do. In order to understand people, you need to know semantics. Semantics is a basic skill, and it's a subject area that can never be learned too much. So you need to start studying that more if you want to rule the world, but not just rule the world, if you want to understand human beings and be able to connect with them. Number 4 is finance. Finance is important because obviously money is important. You need to be rich. You need to know how money works. You need to know the origin of money. You need to know the meaning of the dollar. Where does the dollar come from? Where does it go? When I spend that dollar, how much is it worth? Does it lose value or gain value? How much is the dollar worth versus what it was worth 50 years ago? Why do we use the dollar instead of gold? You need to start asking those questions. Finance is important. Rich people know finance. Powerful people understand finance. It's not that they love finance, they just need to know it. They want to be rich and they want to be powerful, so therefore they say, I need to know finance. I need to understand this. Which means, if you want to be a CEO one day, you want to be your own boss? Okay. Well, you need to know finance. You need to be able to understand money. You need to be able to understand how to allocate it properly. You need to be able to understand common sense spending and saving. Finance is something every rich and wealthy person knows. You gotta know finance. The root of all evil is not money. The root of all evil is not having money. It doesn't make you a nerd to be good with finance. It doesn't make you a nerd to be good with your money. It doesn't make you a nerd to be good with numbers. It makes you smart. It puts you in a position of power. It makes your life easier. It makes your life convenient. It saves you time. It puts you in a position of control. Money is control, and understanding finance is the foundation to understanding money. And what are you getting from my book? Beyond the Beat is about my experiences of a police officer and entrepreneur. It's about how I became a cop, how I became a police officer, and how I became a student athlete also, but really it's mostly how I became a cop. Beyond the Beat, a guide to success from a police officer and entrepreneur is exactly what it sounds like. That's exactly what the book is. It's a guide to success from a police officer, me, and an entrepreneur, me. And how I did it, how I got to this point, how I made money in entrepreneurship, but also how I became a police officer, how I endured, why I became a police officer, what to expect when you're going to the academy. You're going to learn all of that in my books, and how you can become an entrepreneur at the end of the day, how you always have a chance, how living in America gives you the opportunity to do anything, and you don't need to just be a cop, or you don't need to just be a teacher. You can be anything, and especially by being an entrepreneur, you can be wealthy. If you buy my book, How I Made My Door My Office, Experiences of a Student Athlete and Entrepreneur, exactly what the title is what it is. That's my book. It's experiences of my time as an NCAA student athlete and entrepreneur in college. When I was being a designated driver for drunk kids on campus and making money doing that, trying to get myself through school, right? And then while at the same time being a weight room supervisor, being a freelance writer, and then eventually going to the police academy, becoming a police officer after graduating from 2 consecutive academies. And like I said, guys, for the amount of money that you're going to be paying versus the amount of money you might be paying for something that might be valueless instead of valuable, it's worth the trade-off. And I definitely recommend you buy the books. You're going to get a lot of value from it. We're going to get more merch coming into the next year, and we're going to just keep on rolling. We're going to keep building the podcast. We're going to keep building the YouTube channel. We're going to keep trying to build the website up and keep things rolling. We're going to try to make sure fulfillments and shipments and everything's good with e-commerce and whatnot on the e-com side of things. And at the end of the day, we're juggling multiple things at once, but I'm loving it. I'm having fun, and my team's having fun. We are having a lot of fun doing it. It's been an experience, but you know what? It's been cool, and I definitely enjoy the experience of being my own boss. There's nothing quite like it, and I definitely recommend you guys get out there and do it too. So take it easy, guys. Stay prudent, stay powerful, and stay philosophy. Listen, at the end of the day, everybody can get annoyed by the motivational speaker. Everybody gets annoyed by the philosopher who's a little bit too optimistic. But at the end of the day, the philosopher is a healthy mind. At the end of the day, when you start reading Plato, Aristotle, Archimedes, you should know who Nietzsche is, who was Epictetus. He had some really good things to say. You need to understand philosophy. It's important to be existential. Your level of existentialism has to be up here. This universe is ever expanding. You need to be asking yourself why you're here. At the end of the day, nobody is an atheist. Nobody's an atheist. At the end of the day, people just don't want to believe because they don't understand. And that makes sense. It's logical that most people are going to be uncomfortable with many of these conversations, especially with religion, which eventually fades into philosophy, right? The reason I say philosophy is because philosophy is one of the most important studies you can be great at knowing. You should be very well read in philosophy if you want to be rich, successful, and powerful. You need to be a good philosopher. At the end of the day, every man dies by himself. How are you going to be when you die by yourself? Are you going to be okay with it? How are you going to feel when your parents eventually die one day? How are you going to feel when something tragic happens in your life? Again, because it will. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to handle the pressure of something that you just don't want to come, but you know is going to come at some point? That is the reason philosophy is important. Life gets very, very difficult. It gets hard. It gets trying. It gets challenging. You have to have a strong mind. You got to be tough. You got to understand why you're here on this earth. And if you want to understand why you're here on this earth and what the meaning of life really is, then philosophy is the straightest line to understanding and answering those questions. You have to be able to know those questions. Your life may be going very well right now, and if so, that's awesome. But at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to want to hear, and it might sound a little negative, but at the end of the day, your life's going to get worse, and then it's going to get better again, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get better. Life is just a series of roller coasters, ups and downs. How do you think some of these celebrities and famous people handle all of the mental pressure that they probably have, being on reality television shows and movies, or being musicians who are known worldwide, having billions of people listen to your music and have a judgment and an opinion about you? How do you handle that? How do you mentally handle that, right? So what? You want to know how a lot of those people handle it? They understand philosophy. You need to know philosophy. You don't need to be great at it. You don't need to be a PhD in philosophy. You don't need to be a PhD in anything. But what you do need to do is be a PhD in learning. You need to be a PhD in understanding things. And in order for you to understand, you have to be a philosopher. Number 6 is going to be history. You have to understand history. If you want to be rich and powerful and successful, then you need to understand history, because history is the future. If you want to know the future, if you want to know what's coming tomorrow, then you need to look at the patterns of yesterday, how things have changed since yesterday, since that last time. That's why we have the word precedent in a court of law, for example. As a cop, when you're in a court of law and you hear the word precedent, legal precedent, well, the reason you hear that is because we have precedent. We have a timeline. There is a history of this. Those who are ignorant of history are doomed to repeat it. George Santayana and JFK. If you know what's coming, and if you know when somebody's punching at you, you can dodge it. You can fight it. And at the end of the day, in order for you to know that, you have to know somebody's history. When I was a football player in college and high school, we were always watching film. Why did we watch film? To learn the history of this team we're playing. What are they like? What mistakes do they often make? What have they done in the past that we can prepare for tomorrow? History happens every single day. You constantly have to deal with history. You just don't realize it. The history of your web browsers. You need to be a history buff. You need to be a history nerd. History is so important, and if you know history, you're going to know what the future holds. Lastly, it might irritate you, but you gotta know politics. Politics, yeah, I know. It's a sensitive topic. It's a touchy one. And at the end of the day, politics has driven mankind absolutely crazy. Politics is designed to divide the masses. It is designed to divide and conquer, as a matter of fact. And that's why a lot of kings in the past have started wars. Politics, we see it every day and you can't get away from it. Unfortunately, your politicians are ruling the world. Politics is important. You need to understand politics. Now, this doesn't mean choosing a political party. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how to be rich and powerful, right? So in order for you to be rich and powerful, you need to get above politics almost. You need to understand politics so well that you're not even a politician, that you're playing the game behind the scenes, like George Soros, like David Rockefeller, like the Rothschilds, Andrew Carnegie. All of these people, they play the game behind the curtains. They're smarter than a lot of the politicians. Trust me, a lot of the politicians, they're just elected. They're public officials. They've been elected into that position of power. Don't think much of them. But you really should be thinking about the people who are running the puppets. Who are pulling the strings on those puppets? Well, those people are the greatest masters of politics. And that's why I say number 7 on this list is politics. It's just the way it is. Politics plays a role in your everyday life, and it's very important that you become a master of politics. You need to get good at politics if you want to be rich, powerful, and successful. If you want to be 1%, if you want to be rich, if you want to be a king or a queen, then you need to understand power. We've all dealt with politics in the workplace, whether it's an employee getting the job that you deserve, whether it's maybe you didn't make that team, whether it's you didn't get that job, whatever. There's many different reasons that politics will play a role in your everyday life. I want to thank you guys for listening to another episode. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, leave a review, please, as this puts us at the top of the algorithms, and we'll see you next time. Stay prudent, stay powerful, and stay wealthy.